Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the Sageology Podcast. My name is Sage and I'm your host. So, um, I took a break with this podcast because I went through the process of reformatting it. Um, and I'm going through like a whole revitalization of my brain right now. But a part of that is returning back to this podcast. So I'm so happy to be back here and to be doing that again. So if you're new, a lot of what this podcast is going to, okay, so first of all, who am I, right? My name is Sage. I am an astrologer and I'm also a spiritualist. So a lot of this podcast is going to be astrology centered. I'm going to talk a lot about the transits. I'm going to talk a lot about the full moons and new moons and all the whole astrology thing, right? I'm going to do a monthly horoscope where I go over the astrology of every month, and I'm also going to be talking about the full moon and new moon every month. And then I also plan on having a bonus episode once a month where I kind of talk about, like spirituality and different spiritual topics that I want to kind of get into. So, this first episode of me being back, I do want to talk about spirituality. So, the topic of today is going to be spirituality versus religion. So, if you know anything about astrology, for the past 3 years, we had Saturn being in Pisces. Saturn right now is in Aries. Saturn, like, just went to Aries. It's gonna dip back in Pisces a little bit. I'm gonna say maybe in like November, but don't quote me on that. And then it's gonna be in Aries a good. So Saturn and Aries is a whole another shit within itself. I'll be talking about that more. I may do an episode on it by itself. But with Saturn and Pisces, I saw just a lot of chaos in the spiritual community. And I saw like a lot of just like backlash when it came to spirituality a lot. And I saw a lot of spiritualists being attacked and going through their own issues. Like with Saturn and Pisces, I saw different spiritualists like get arrested, going to jail. Like, can we talk about Nature Boy? I'm not gonna talk about Nature Boy, but Nature Boy's thing, okay? I saw a lot of people who are in spirituality like rebuke it and revert back to Christianity. We saw the argument with Jasmine and that one Christian girl on TikTok, that went viral. It's like this whole thing. So I feel like we saw like a lot of riffraff between astrology and not astrology, but like spirituality and religion, and a lot of this crash and like a lot of spiritualism. You're like, oh, like um spirituality is evil and abandoning it and going back into religion. So like what is the difference between spirituality and religion? I would say this as a spiritualist, right? One of the big issues that I see in the spiritual community is that people think that spirituality is a free for all. People dive into spirituality with no sort of grounding, with no sort of like background, with no sort of spiritual routine, with no sort of discipline, right? And so I do think that in a lot of instances, religion is a precursor to spirituality. And I believe that that is a good thing. Okay, like, let me explain. Also, I want to say too, if you are religious, when you watch this podcast, please, like, don't be emotional about it because I'm going to talk in a very straightforward manner. But when it comes to the things that I'm going to say, I just don't want anyone to be triggered, but I also want people to hear me out. So if you are going to be triggered by this conversation, like maybe just don't watch it. But if you have the emotional maturity to like disconnect yourself from my language and how I'm going to express things and maybe try and see what I'm trying to say, I do feel like you'll get a lot out of this. So I kind of see this pattern of a lot of spiritualists, like the more dignified spiritualists. Um, a lot of us grew up in a church. Like I grew up in the church. I was basically raised like a PK. My grandfather was a pastor, and he played a significant part in raising me. And I was raised in the church. Like reading scriptures, Sunday school, singing in the choir. And I know a lot of spiritualists who were heavily raised in the church and kind of just like naturally outgrew it. And I think one of the benefits of being heavily religious as a precursor into evolving and growing into spirituality is that religion teaches you spiritual discipline. Um, and I think that is like one of the most beautiful parts of religion. I am not here to bash religion. I am not. Like, I know a lot of spiritualists kind of have like a bone to pick with like different religions or different religious structure because a lot of us have religious trauma. Baby, I got religious trauma, so I ain't about to I'm not about to sit up here and act like I don't because I definitely do. Like, I have religious trauma, but I do understand the benefits of religion and what it does. I feel like religion does a great job at fostering community, fostering connection. Like, it does a wonderful thing. And I also do think that religion teaches you the right principles of spiritual discipline. And I genuinely think that's like in the highest sense, right? What it's for. I do think that religion is great for teaching spiritual discipline. I feel like religion is great for fostering community. And I feel like religion is great for leading people to have good lives. Like a lot of religious people, they have good families, they have good communities, they have like common sense, they are successful, they're able to be very good, productive members of society. I feel like a religion does a great job at doing that because, and then you also will notice that a lot of people who are deeply into religion, they are very spiritual people. Like they have a close relationship with God, and religion is where they go to scratch that itch, to live out their spirituality, their their relationship, their connection with God. So, in a lot of ways, I do feel like religion is the dummy-proof way to spirituality. And I don't mean that in like, I'm not calling you like ignorant or a dummy if you are religious, because I honestly think the opposite. But the way that religion is structured with the different rules and laws that they have, it is to keep people safe, and then the spiritual discipline that religion instills in you is to keep people safe. So one thing I would say, like, if you are a spiritual person or if you are a person who has spiritual gifts, sometimes it could be dangerous, right? Being someone who has spiritual gifts, whether you have like the gift of intuition, the gift of sight, if you have your third eye open, that could be a very, very scary thing to experience, especially if you don't know how to um, process that or live with that and operate with that. So I think a lot of the laws that are programmed to you in religion keeps you safe because it naturally kind of keeps your vibration high. So if you are someone who is psychic, you have to be in a higher vibration so that you are able to connect with God or ascended masters or spiritual guides. Like you need to be in a high vibration so you can connect with people like Jesus, so you can connect with God, so you can hear the voice of God. And a part of doing that is praying every day, praying 3 times a day, going by these principles, reading your Bible, like being dedicated and focus on like spiritual texts or religious texts, being dedicated and focus on prayer, being dedicated and focus on living right. Religions lay these things out for you in a very easy, like straightforward, simple way that is easy to follow. And I feel like that is such a beautiful thing. And the issue is that when people get into spirituality, they think there are no rules. I think one of the reasons I do feel like the best spiritualists who are able to handle this calling have extremely good spiritual discipline. Like we pray every day, we stay into a higher frequency, whether we are reading some sort of religious text, or we are connecting with um, materials. We are feeding our brains positive things, and we take on that discipline within ourselves. Even if, like, you're not praying, you're meditating, like, people who are good at spirituality and people who are good spiritualists know and understand spiritual discipline. But the thing is, because spirituality is a more individualized journey, spiritualists tend to come up with these methods and these routines on their own. Like, some people may deem like meditation is their thing, and prayer is not much so much as their thing. Some people really like the Bible. Some people really like the Quran. And people connect with different modalities to keep them in a higher vibration. And they use different tools. So I do feel like that is more so the intent behind spirituality. You can kind of connect with the different tools that keep you spiritually aligned. For me, like crystals, I love crystals. It's one of the tools that I use. Astrology isn't inherently a spiritual thing, but you can use it in a spiritual way. I do feel like astrology is best used in a spiritual way. So astrology is one of the things that I do. Like meditation, I'm very heavy into divination. I use cards. I love to read. I'm not good at reading tarot, so it's not necessarily something that I advertise, but I love like reading my oracle cards and connecting my oracle cards. So these are all different tools that I use to maintain a high vibration, that I use to stay alive on my soul's journey and on my soul's path. Now, when it comes to religion, okay, let's take this a step back. I probably should have like had notes or something, but it will be better in the future, y'all. Tonight we just vibing. So I think another con when it comes to religion and why a lot of people end up outgrowing religion is because religion is something that is organized to use for control and oppression. And I think that's why a lot of people have issues with different religions, like specifically Christianity. And I feel like that's why a lot of people have religious trauma when it comes to Christianity, especially Black Americans. I know for me, like, because I am Black American, born and raised in Louisiana, and I deeply love my culture. And like I said, I grew up in a church. So a big conflict for me when it came to this, I could make a whole nother episode about this, about like my own personal journey into spirituality, because maybe that's a whole nother episode before I really like deep dive into that. But okay, let's talk about me personally, right? Even though the religion that I was raised in has always forbid certain things, like I never felt like God didn't love me because I had an interest in these things or because I wanted to explore these things, right? For one, I'm bisexual. And I remember being like a teenager and being so conflicted because I liked a woman, and it's like I knew I liked a woman, but I was like, this vibe, like people are telling me that God hates me because I like pussy. And I ain't never felt like God hated me. Like I've always been like, I don't know, I just never felt that. And I always kind of had an inherent interest in astrology too. And I always kind of loved astrology, but then again, I'm like, people telling me that this is evil. And people are telling me that I'm evil, that astrology is evil, I should study astrology. I'm like, I don't feel a disconnection from God. I don't feel like God hates me. Like I don't feel the presence that I had of like divinity and my spirit team and my connection with God. Like that's been a part of me my whole life. And no matter the different interests that I had when I was growing and developing or different aspects of my personality, I never felt like God left me or God condemned me because of these things. And a lot of times I felt like when it came to exploring different interests, like astrology or divination, it kind of brought me closer to God and not necessarily away from God. And I think that was one of the things, that's one of the issues that a lot of people have when it comes to religion. And I would say this especially for Black Americans. I do feel like inherently we are a very spiritual people. For us to overcome the things that we have overcame in this life, be it slavery, baby, like they were Christian, but let's talk about it. Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman, these were incredibly spiritual people. And then they used and were dependent on their spirituality to lead their people to freedom. You understand? We are inherently a very spiritual people. And another issue that I have is because culturally, I love my culture. I feel very culturally connected, you know, um, to my people. And the Black church is a part of that. I have a cultural love for the Black church. Like, I grew up a usher. I grew up fanning people when they caught the Holy Ghost and they passed out on the floor and running and going getting them some water. Like, this is a part of my childhood experience that I love. Even the choir and the hymns and the songs that we sang, like you can feel the spirit, like you can feel God, like swing low, sweet chariot coming on to carry me home. Do you understand? Like you can feel it when y'all listen to God, Jesus, Franklin, even Aretha Franklin. Like, what's up with the Franklins? But we know curtain. Like when you listen to that, the BBCC, you feel it in your toes. Like you feel it throughout your whole body. The cultural experience of growing up in the Black church is something that is very, very near and dear to my heart. And I believe that I'm not the only person who feels this way. And I feel like there is a great benefit from it. But also, growing up in Louisiana, a very like ritualistic state, a lot of our elders, right, who created these traditions that we love so much, that we love so dearly, that are housed within the Black church, they were hiding their spirituality in religion because they couldn't be outwardly spiritual. You know, um, there's so much hoodoo embedded in the Black church. Even if you, baby, like Catholicism, voodoo, there's not a clear line, especially in Louisiana. A lot of it blends. So a lot of these magic systems, right? A lot of these spiritual practices for Black Americans have been things that have been hidden in religion out of survival, because one of the dark sides of religion is that it is used for oppression and control. The Bible was used as something to control slaves, right? But the Bible was also used as a tool of liberation. A lot of slaves were had the ability to learn how to read because it was encouraged to learn how to read the Bible. So I feel like it's not a black and white thing, but I do think that there comes to a certain point where where you when you are ready to take on more accountability for yourself, for your soul, for your soul's journey and your purpose, you kind of naturally outgrow religion, because the setbacks, and also too, you have to understand that when it comes to a lot of religion, these holy texts are manipulated and weaponized. The same way that you can use the Bible as a tool to um, ascend, right, and connect with a higher vibration, with a higher authority, instead of using it to get connected with Christ consciousness, you can also use it on a very shallow, on a very dense level, and kind of use it for oppression and control. And I feel like this is with a lot of texts. Oh my God, can we talk about the NOI? This is one of my favorite examples. Like, I love the NOI. If you want to see a disciplined black man with a good head on his shoulders, go the NOI. They've been holding it down. They've been holding it down. You can never make me hate a Muslim. You can never make me hate a Muslim black man. Now, is that for me? Absolutely not. Because I know I'm not about to subscribe, to them laws. Like I'm gonna do my thing, right? But that's why I feel like I've kind of been emphasizing on point and explaining why I don't think that religion is something that is inherently bad. I do think that the discipline that is instilled in religion is a great and beautiful thing. But once you obtain that discipline, I think sometimes you are ready to grow naturally. So let's shift the conversation. Let's talk about these crackhead ass spiritualists. Y'all, like, okay, okay. Because I got my issues and I have my beefs with the spiritual community. And one of those beefs is that a lot of y'all are idiots. Idiots. People think that spirituality is a free for all, which is why I feel like religion is great training grounds because when you decide to become spiritual, you just can't do whatever. There's rules to this. And I also do think that too, when you become spiritual, you have to, man, you have to take on so much personal accountability. If you really have a true connection with God and your spirit team and your angels, baby, they don't be playing around. They be so serious. They be so for real with your ass. And a lot of y'all think that y'all can just like get into these magic systems and things that you don't fucking know about and just use it to manipulate and control people and get into these. Okay, safety, right? Let's talk about it. A lot of times, religions will condemn things like astrology or tarot cards or divination, is because y'all can't fucking handle it. So if you can't handle the knowledge of having foresight or perceiving the future, why would you go and play with that shit and think that shit sweet? When like pull a horror chart and see something, or pull some cards and you see something, and if you spook when that shit happen, come to heaven in real life, baby, that's not something you're supposed to be doing. A lot of y'all are not big dogs. Like you really have to be a big dog in order to walk this spiritual path. I feel like a lot of people be caught off guard because they think that the shit's sweet. Like it's like a whole steady. Like people think it's cool. People think it's cute. Like, oh, I'm gonna read my tarot cards. I'm gonna look this oracle. But when shit get real, you don't be ready. You don't be prepared to handle it, and you be spooked. So if you are a paranoid person, because a lot of people also too, people be hiding behind religion because it's very easy to, like hide shitty character within a religious construct because people are superficial. Like how many pastors be fucking a congregation? I mean, let's just be honest. Because I think in ways when it comes to religion, because people are superficial, if you can put on like a good face and holler and yell and perform and put on a show, people are going to be down with that shit. But I feel like in spirituality, it's just spin in a different way because when you open up that portal, baby, them spirits be coming for your ass. It ain't no hiding. I think that karma works the same way when it comes to religion because a crooked pastor ain't go forever get away with being a crooked pastor. But because you haven't opened that veil yet, it's a little bit more subtle. When it comes to spirituality, when you open that veil, ain't no going back. And people be playing like shit sweet and like it's not serious. And they be getting their ass toe up, ate up. And I also think too, a lot of times, like if you are naturally psychic, if you can't read without the cards, don't use the cards. Like, I think that there are steps when it comes to the spiritual path. And I think that these tools are here for a specific reason to kind of help gently guide you and grow you so you are supposed to ascend naturally. So many people want to skip steps because they think that shit is sweet or they think that it's cool, or people will kind of look at like spiritual gifts kind of as like a superpower, it's like a superficial thing, and then they want it. It's like, oh, like I want to be able to have these dreams and decode and do these things and, decode the stars and understand astrology and know the future and predict this and look into people energy. Like people want it because it seems like such a good thing, but they don't have the discipline to keep up. So shit's been on their ass. I think that Saturn and Pisces has been dishing out a lot of this karma. So when it came to the spiritualists that were scamming, that were getting away on people, I feel like that karma was catching up to them. And the spirits came to get their vengeance. Like it's a real thing. I think that like it's so crazy, right? Because when you walk the spiritual path and you're dedicated to it, you have one foot in the physical world and you have one foot in the physical world. And you're clearly able to see the difference. But because they have so many people who don't walk the spiritual path and they just put on a performance, they're like people pleasers, like neurotypicals, they are really good at like telling people what they want to hear and appeasing to people's ego. Like a lot of people are good at appeasing to the ego. And to truly be spiritual, maybe that ego must die because that ego will get your ass in trouble. Do you hear me? Trouble. But so Lord, I got off my path. I mean my track. What was I trying to say? Yes. So people use spirituality to just like, oh, give people readings, but be using ChatGPT or be faking and making shit up and like doing fake rituals just to get people money and shit like that. But when that shit it's been kind of think about like Princess and the Frog, when they had like Dr. Facilier and he was making deals with all these little spirits, because he was like doing voodoo and he was making deals with these spirits and trying to like get people and get the frogs. Oh, I'm gonna get y'all this, I'm gonna get y'all that. But when it came to the end, when he used what he borrowed from the spirits and he didn't give them what they want, his ass died. It be like that. And I also could think too, like people don't be ready because they haven't had the discipline, they haven't had the training, or they just not like that for real. Like because coming into your gifts is truly an ascension and a rite of passage that you have to go through, right? So people don't be having that, like they don't be in that, and so um, it's kind of like they'll dive deep into it, and then shit get real, and they spooked. They get spooked, so they run back to their sacredness. They run back to religion, trying to make it all like go away and trying to make everything sweet, but it doesn't necessarily work that way. So I'm gonna read a post I posted, I think like 2 years ago, and then we're gonna go deeper and dissect that. So let's see. You know what? I'm just gonna read the whole post. So please, if you are sensitive, y'all, I don't know. I am a kind and gentle person, and I am very, very open minded. But sometimes I like speak in a very like straightforward way. So please like take things with a grain of salt. And even though I may sound harsh sometimes, like I don't mean it in a harsh way like at all. But I said, and also too, even though I'm spiritual, because that is the path for me, that works best for me personally. I do not condemn religion. Like, I think that is a wonderful, beautiful thing. And I love religious people and I hang out with religious people a lot. And I'm kind of like tend to find myself around religious circles because I love people who love God. So if you love God, I'm naturally go click with you and we go vibe together because, like that's my vibe. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I want to do. Okay, so let me read this post. So I said, I want to be clear and state that my page isn't for anyone that identifies or aligns with liberal ideologies. This is not a safe space for you. You will find that a lot of my beliefs will offend you because I am obedient to spirit, and the liberal mindset is complete lawlessness and void of spiritual integrity, which it is. Spirit does not operate in a sense of good and bad or black and white. Spirit operates in a sense of universal laws, actions, and consequences. However, it is important to understand that our purpose on this earth is to face the consequences of our actions and learn lessons from them. We can only do this by taking accountability, and that is simple. Let me talk to my people real quick. Let me talk to the Black community. Now, let me say this. You will notice that I'm going to put this in a framework of people who have a connection with God. People who tend to have a closer connection with God tend to have less liberal ideologies and more traditional ideologies. And I believe that is because traditional ideologies are more aligned with the path of God. I do think when it comes to like a lot of liberal talking points, they are they forego accountability, and that is not something that you can do on the spiritual path. And I tend to be because I'm the mix, like I'm not like super like traditional, but I do hold a lot of traditional beliefs because traditional beliefs tend to be the most like spiritually righteous and centered thing. And I feel like this comes into play with this conversation of like spirituality versus religion. Religion is forcing you to be traditional because it is a set of rules and laws versus spirituality is you choosing. It's like you having the bird's eye view and understand everything. Like spirituality is being a liberal person but choosing traditionalism because you know that is what's most aligned. And I feel like in the Black community there's all this social pressure for us to be liberal because the Democratic Party freed the slaves, apparently. But, well, not apparently, but that's like a whole nother conversation about how the parties flipped or whatever. But anyway, let me not get off track. But I do think like a lot of Black people, we are pressured into having like these like super liberal ideologies. Lord Jesus, I don't want to get so controversial here tonight. But like I told y'all, like I'm a bisexual woman. But being a bisexual woman, I know that a divine union is between the masculine and the feminine, is between a man and a woman. I understand that my desire for a woman, I do think in some aspects is spiritual, right? There is a spiritual aspect to it that I'm not going to get into it. But I also know a part of that is like my flesh, like my desire. It's like it's truly what I want. But God's creation, God's blueprint between a man and a woman in procreation is always going to be the most aligned path that you can take. And it's not to condemn sexuality because I do think that like there's a spiritual element to being fluid, right? And understanding your desires. Like there is a sacred, high vibrational way to express that and to live it out. And there's also a low vibrational way to express that and to live it out when you are operating in trauma. But I think when it comes to like a lot of liberal talking points, right, it is to forego accountability and to give that accountability to some sort of structure, whether it's like religious authority or government authority or whatever, and you are, and it sends people down a less aligned path. I think I may need more concrete examples with this, but let me continue to read this post, and I think that we'll get into more. Ooh, let me know. Oh God, y'all, this being the first episode back, y'all really about to learn my personality and how I think for real. But if you help with me, help with me. Okay, so liberals want to remove the balancing act and do away with the consequences. They want to create a world where every immoral act is accepted, praised, and enabled. The extreme liberal mindset is completely void of accountability and promotes a victim mentality. Example: it's not my responsibility to heal from my childhood trauma. So the world has to cater to my mental illness. I believe in sexual liberation, and there should be no natural or social consequences for my sexual indecent behavior. Y'all get the gist. So again, like when we find ourselves in this like overly liberal mindset, when it's kind of like just like, people, when it comes to like people in their mental illnesses and people in their quirks and like being overly political correct, and just like this whole like, okay, let me keep reading. This is a toxic mentality, and it creates a whole bunch of enabled crybabies that have major victim mentality. These people will never be happy, and most have shitty lives. You can never find God nor peace when operating in such a low vibration. Spirit is completely void of these people's lives, even if they claim to be spiritual. This is true. Like a lot of liberal people be like, "Oh, I'm spiritual," and you know nothing about the spiritual path. You just want to operate in a low vibration and keep living out these trauma cycles and have nobody tell y'all what to do. Like a lot of these women who be like so pro sexual liberation, and y'all make decisions and choices that are not aligned with the highest vibration for your body. Y'all want to be like sexually indecent, sexually immoral, and it's just kind of like you want to sleep with a whole bunch of people and get STDs and have multiple pregnancies and delete them and doing all these things. And it's just like, oh yeah, I'm liberal. Like, I need my choice. I can do what I want. I can sleep with whoever I want. And I think that there are spiritual consequences for that. And a lot of times, like, y'all want the government to be like your way out. You want government laws to be centered around like you know these this unintegrated trauma, this unhealed trauma. You want everybody to like make excuses for it and just to be okay with it, and I just don't think that that is the most beautiful, the most righteous way to live. Let me continue. Most of these people are depressed, single, have poor health, or just miserable. And oh my God, I'm so sorry, but I have to say there is a specific brand of liberal black woman, the SJ warrior, the social justice warrior, who is what I'm talking about. They be spiritual, they be wearing crystals, they be into tarot, into astrology, and they have no sort of life, like spiritually aligned, like they have no life or structure. Like they be depressed, they be always like talking to a therapist. You get what I'm saying? They can't maintain a decent relationship. They're not healthy. They don't take care of their bodies because they feel like the world is supposed to bend to them and make room for all their inadequacies. And that's just not the way. Like I feel like at some point, I do think that that is a phase of healing, like liberation, just kind of doing your own thing. But at some point, I do believe that it is important to get out of that phase and kind of take more accountability for yourself. There's one thing that's where it's like it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And when it comes to like the true spiritual path and not performative spirituality, that's very much how it works. Like, baby, it's not your fault. Like, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Like, this is not your fault. Whether it's how you were raised, things that happen in your childhood, or how the world treats you, like, sometimes things happen to us that are not our fault, but it's our responsibility to heal them. And I feel like a lot of times liberals make it everybody else's responsibility and make everybody else to walk on eggshells because they don't want to do the healing and they don't want to do the work. If you are deeply religious, you may find my page triggering or immoral. Religious people forego accountability, which is not in alignment with spirit, and suffer said consequences. Most religious people have conservative ideas that, in my opinion, is more aligned with spirit, but they forego their self autonomy for a doctrine or set of rules. You do find that most religious people that push conservative ideas have fiat. Their family structures are intact. They have money, class privilege, or white privilege, but these people are also lost and broken on the inside. When you forego accountability for a set of rules, it creates a more stable life, but you also subject yourself to mind control. How many people, how many religious people, how many Christian people are pro Israel, are pro genocide, just because? How many white Christians are flaming racist just because? Can we talk? Please, can we talk about the cognitive dissonance that religion creates? God, Jesus, living in America, how many times it's like we can't even sit here and be like, oh yeah, Christopher Columbus was a terrible person. Thomas Jefferson is a terrible person. Andrew Jackson's a terrible. The KKK, the KK of fucking claims. It's a spiritual organization. It's a Christian. KKKs are Christian. The KKK is a Christian organization. Like the cognitive dissonance that religion creates sometimes, that's why I'll smoke for y'all too. Like, baby, when it comes to Sage the astrologer, she got smoke for everybody. I'm gonna call everybody out because, and I also feel like too, not to bash Christian, but if you are serious about Christianity, you have to address and take accountability for the idiots in your religion. And it's like, no shade, right? But because Christianity is the mainstream religion and a lot of mainstream people tend to be fucking dumb, like, I feel like the average person is not that smart, right? So we just dealing with average, like, in order, if you are a Christian and you are like aligned and like super serious about Christianity, you have to take accountability for the idiots, for the nut cases, for the nut jobs in your Christian community, because they're making the whole religion look bad. And y'all just want to do. Somebody hold TD Jakes accountable, please. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's continue with the post. But the cognitive dissonance that religion creates is extremely concerning. When you forego accountability for a set of rules, it creates a more stable life, but you also subject yourself to mind control. It becomes no sex before marriage or burn in hell versus honoring your spirit by respecting yourself and only engaging in the sacred act of sex with a person who honors themselves and understands the consequences. This example is the real difference between religion and spirituality. Religion will say, no sex before marriage. You can't have sex before marriage. It is a sin. Spirituality will say, you can sleep with whoever you want. You can have sex with whoever you want, but take the karmic consequences when you have sex with someone and it's unaligned. Spirituality says no, that sharing your body with somebody, it is something that is sacred and that should not be done lightly. And if you are to share your body with someone and the consequences of sex happens, you are fully in charge and responsible of that. Religion is the dummy proof version. Religion is gonna say, you know what? We're not fucking. We're not fuck everybody not fucking. We're not gonna do it. You can only fuck if you got a ring on your finger. We're not fucking. We're not going to do it. Religion, I mean spirituality, like you can fuck. But if you sleep with that nigga and you're not supposed to, your life is gonna fall apart. When you pull them cards and the devil come out and you ignore it and you put the devil back in your tarot deck and you drive to that nigga house at 3 a.m. and you get your back blown out, my good sis, and you come home and you wake up itching. And you go to the doctor and you got chlamydia. And then your period don't come. And you pee on a stick and you pregnant. And then you find out that nigga cheating. So you delete the baby. Then you lose your job, your car break down, you steady pulling cards, devil coming out, tower coming out, lovers coming out. Just terrible shit all the time. You gonna turn around and say, the cards are evil. These cards are evil. My tarot cards destroyed my life. Your tarot cards told you not to go sleep with that man. And you slept with that man. And the consequences were more aggressive because you chose to be grown and do what you want to do. But when you grown and you do what you want to do, you take the consequences out of it. Religion gonna give you a rule, so you don't even get there in the first place. But let's continue. That's not a foolproof example, but y'all get the gist, please. Please don't be, whoa, people wait for marriage to have sex and their husband hate. Yeah, that happens too. Which again goes back to spirituality. Like you really have to do the work. You're never gonna get out of doing the work. Truly. Truly. But anyway, most people choose religion as a cop out instead of spirituality because it's dummy proof. And spirituality requires accountability and responsibility, something that religion takes away and replaces with fear mongering. Spirit is not going to dictate or condemn you. Spirit will allow you to mess up and fail, but that's life. God wishes for us to make our own choices and decisions because that is how we learn and grow. If you refuse to go through this process organically, you will be stuck in the same karmic cycles when, with your same crappy life. It is really only up to you to take accountability and make your life what you will it instead of playing victim and being a matrix zombie. And another thing that I will say too, and that's why, like, in that example that I just gave, that's also why, like, religion will turn around and be like, sex before marriage is a sin. Sex before marriage isn't really a sin, but if you wait to have sex with someone that you're married with, you're most likely going to be having like high vibrational, aligned, intentional sex, and instead of just like hunching on whoever, whatever, just because, you know. Like sex before marriage isn't necessarily a sin, but how many people are going to have the spiritual authority within themselves to discern like who they should and who they should not be having sex with? And how many people are going to take on the responsibilities for their actions when they do have sex with somebody who's not aligned and consequences happen? Like how many people are truly going to alchemize that and, like take on that lesson? So that's why I don't think religion is a bad thing. I truly do think that it's like a safety net that is important, and it does teach the spiritual discipline that is important. But when you are growing and evolving, it kind of gets to a point where it creates stagnancy in the context of your spiritual growth. I don't know, y'all. I feel like that's all I want to say. I do know that I might do a part two on this topic. If you want a part two, tell me you want a part two. Follow me on Instagram at Sage the Astrologer and DM me if you have questions or if you would like me to go dive deeper into the subject. And I can also create another episode that is like more like structured and aligned. But I don't know, I just kind of want to talk about this because it was on my mind and I was thinking about it with the whole like Saturn and Pisces transit and all of that. So I truly do hope that y'all enjoyed. Um, I am gonna upload this to YouTube. Um, so if you're watching this on YouTube, like, share, comment, subscribe. Astrology videos will be coming soon. More podcast episodes will be coming soon. If you would like for me to explore or dive deep on a specific topic, leave in the comments or DM me on Instagram and I will consider it. Also, too, my books are available. So if you'd like to book a reading with me, go on my website at www.kingsage77.com. And yeah, so I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. There's so many other things I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the movie centers because I feel like the movie centers does a good job at explaining this topic when it comes to like religion versus spirituality and like the spiritual path and like the spiritual calling. Like Sammy playing the guitar, that was a spiritual calling for him. And I don't think that a lot of people understood that. But that's why he had to defy his dad. And even though all that stuff happened, that night he still. These are obviously set of spoilers, so I'm so sorry if you haven't watched Sinners and you're listening to this. But if you haven't watched Sinners, what are you doing? Go watch Sinners. But that is definitely why all that stuff happened, and Sammy still has to play the guitar because him playing that guitar was like it was a spiritual calling for him. And then again, like, yes, bad things happen when he played the guitar. He attracted evil, he attracted, like demonic spirits. But I don't know. That is a whole nother conversation. But it was also his gift. So he took it upon himself to transmute that and use his gift in a righteous way and to give to his people and to uplift his community and create safety and refuge for his community. Mm. I don't know. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about so much, y'all. So more episodes coming soon. Coming soon. If you listen to this whole thing, thank you. I really appreciate you. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say. But y'all be blessed. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you appreciated my vibe. I love you and bye.